Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to talk to you about the documentary Tainted Heroes, and I'm going to endorse that documentary. Okay, before I go any further, if I was in South Africa in 1994 and old enough to vote, I would have voted for Nelson Mandela and the ANC at that time. Also, the apartheid South Africa was a disgrace, and I personally supported sanctions against the apartheid South Africa government because South Africa needed to change. They needed to include all races and colors in their voting process and in their equal rights process. But it wasn't so clear cut and dry that the apartheid government was the complete devil and the ANC were the complete angels. Okay, movie notes that the ANC developed in 1912, and the movie does show that when ANC activist Chris Hani was murdered, that Nelson Mandela went to make peace with the situation and try to make the situation peaceful. So the movie was not a stab at that, and it didn't promote apartheid, but what it did show was that there were a lot of ANC activists that were overseas that went into exile during the apartheid years that lived luxurious lifestyles and really wasn't active in the anti-apartheid struggles in 1976 in the Soweto uprising. And there were black South Africans in the movie that testified to that the ANC really was not involved with that very much. A lot of that was done by Donald Sietzi Mashinini. But and because it talks about Camp Quattro, where Nelson Mandela wanted to investigate a lot of ANC abuses that happened in Camp Quattro during that time, but people in Nelson Mandela's inner circle, namely Chris Hani and Jacob Zuma, in that situation, they talked Nelson Mandela out of doing that. But there was a lot of abuse that did happen in Camp Quattro during that time. Now, Chris Hani did note, as I pointed out, that a lot of ANC leaders and activists that went into exile were living luxurious and opulent lifestyles during that time and not really putting themselves in the anti-apartheid struggle as much as they could have. And one of the black South Africans in the movie pointed out that if the ANC was there in 1976, why did the average black South African in Soweto have to use rocks and parts of dustpans to defend themselves against the bullets coming from the apartheid government trying to put down the uprising, which is a well-known fact, well-known criticism as well. Also, the Inkatha Freedom Party developed away from the ANC, and at one point had 300,000 members. But there were a lot of Inkatha Freedom Party members and homes in the KwaZulu-Natal province, and there were a lot of houses that were burned to the ground in KwaZulu-Natal province by the ANC during the anti-apartheid years. A lot of their anti-apartheid struggle was actually put towards the Inkatha Freedom Party instead of the apartheid government. And like I said, a lot of this happened when Nelson Mandela was in prison and jail. Nelson Mandela had nothing to do with it. Neither Ahmad Kathrada and Walter Sisulu or Steve Biko. But at the same time, there were a lot of key ANC members like Jacob Zuma that had things to do with it that shouldn't have happened. Okay? And also, it talks about how the ANC glorified Andrew Zondo, and Andrew Zondo in 1985, on December 23rd, 1985, set off a bomb in a shopping mall. There was no military or no power installations in that area. It was a specific targeting of innocent people that injured 40 people and killed around 5 people. Just a sick, sadistic situation. And the ANC elevates Andrew Zondo to a hero level a lot of times. And the movie points that out. And actually, the judge who handed Zondo his sentence gave him the death penalty. He was opposed to the death penalty, but he felt like South African law, that the punishment should fit the crime based on South African law, and he felt like he needed to award Andrew Zondo the death penalty on those grounds. And the movie points that out. And the movie presents a lot of facts. It's not like it just gives its opinion. No, it gives a lot of facts. It says the ANC was established in 1912, which was a fact, that it was established in 1912. Okay, it gives those kinds of facts, and it's a near 2-hour documentary. It's an hour and 54 minutes long. The ANC was not as much behind the Soweto uprising as it was a young 19-year-old named Donald Sietzi Mashinini. That was his name. He had the English name Donald, and he had the African name Sietzi. And the movie points that out. And, and props to AfriForum for putting it on there. And the current ANC really could not dispute a lot of the facts. All they said was the people in AfriForum for putting this on were like the KKK of the modern era, but that was not the case. I mean, as I said, the movie points out that Nelson Mandela, after Chris Hani's murder, Nelson Mandela went and encouraged peace and reconciliation. He didn't encourage violence and factions. And also, the movie also points out that de Klerk asked white South Africans in a vote if he should continue negotiations with the ANC, and 70% of the white South Africans said yes. That shows you there that not most white South Africans are not racist, or were not racist. So, excellent movie, and I highly recommend that you see it and decide for yourself. And I firmly believe you're gonna like the movie, and I firmly believe that you're gonna see that it just wasn't so clear cut and dry that the apartheid government of South Africa was all evil and the devil, and the ANC were all angels and saints, because that was just simply not the case. So, anyways, hope everyone's doing well. Take care. God bless, and bye bye.